Pixar's hit blockbuster family of 2004, The Incredibles, was originally slated for a 2016 release.
Now it's scheduled for mid to late 2019 release.
And that's bullshit.
My name is DeMarcus Real.
I'm Ellie Abel.
And I'm Cedric Flynn.
And today we will be covering the Pixar age gap. Ellie?
So, a lot of you guys have probably noticed Pixar was definitely a very our generation thing. I know I was born in 92. I think you're actually our youngest, born in 1995, if you can believe it. So I think that there's really a big, that was definitely our generation's thing. I know we're all very crazy about Disney, but Pixar, at least for me, holds something very special because they were always so groundbreaking and always, their movies were always just kind of yanking at heartstrings. I think we all cried during the beginning of Up, except maybe you.
Whoa there, I'm not heartless. When he started floating away in the house and he started talking about his wife, my heart broke a little bit.
Sure, there's something inherently sad about old people floating away in giant houses.
I sobbed. So definitely we all have a Pixar movie that we all love near and dear to our hearts, and that's kind of something that we've seen kind of continue to blossom throughout the years with Toy Story 3. I know that was super sad, and that was something that definitely you're starting to see people our age going out to the theater to see that movie, along with smaller kids, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, and then there's just like 2 lonely 23-year-olds.
So you always feel awkward when the first 4 people in front of you are like 6.
Yeah, and then it's just you and maybe you and like one of your friends, and you have no kids.
Not me. I totally sit in the back with my feet up, yelling and screaming and sobbing because whatever, I'm a
That's
man
what all
child.
the other kids are doing.
And I'm a man child.
And then the parents look at you like you're deranged. Like, I'm sorry, this is my childhood crumbling in front of me, alright?
Exactly, and that's exactly what it represents. I think that, I think Toy Story 3 is the most relevant example because we haven't seen Finding Dory, we haven't seen The Incredibles, and I think that that was really the last big sequel that Pixar decided to do.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and I think that, of the 2 films, particularly Finding Nemo, but also The Incredibles, I think that those were some of the most overplayed films of the generation. I could not go a single day of school without seeing Finding Nemo at least 1,000 times.
And even now, like, if you go through, like, Facebook or, like, Instagram, you still see memes of Finding Nemo, you still see memes of, like, Monsters University every now and then.
Monsters University is actually a really good example because that was something so again, I'm going back to Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3, Andy goes to college. Monsters University comes out, hey, they're all going to college. So Pixar does a really good job, despite the age gap, of bringing it relevant to their original audience, which is people our age, 90's kids, kind of going into the early 2000s with, Bug's Life and all that stuff. So I think that they do a really good job of keeping it relevant for us, as well as smaller children and even older adults, because they do kind of pepper in some of the more off-color humor.
Right. I mean, I think that one of the main selling points of Pixar is that they do find a way to kind of bring you in, no matter what age you're watching it. When you're really young, you kind of take it for what it is. But when you you get a little bit older, you start to see a lot of some of the darker tones, and I think that's just really, really great. And they make very good points here. Pixar's done a really good job of kind of progressing their stories along with us as we transitioned, and as we as millennials hit different milestones throughout our life, as we were transitioning into the first days of school, starting to move into new houses, making new friends, the transition into college, that was something that we were all going through. So I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that we were all really enjoying that focus, that vision of theirs. So I know that I was particularly disappointed when I found out that The Incredibles, such an iconic movie from our generation, had been delayed.
Yeah, like, I don't know about you guys, but me and my little sister watched that movie about 300 times.
Oh,
like, she can quote half the entire movie.
And actually, I just watched The Incredibles like a couple of days ago, and I remember going, oh, this movie is still great. And I went and looked it up. I went and looked it up on IMDb, and I was like, oh my god, it came out in 2004? That movie's over 10 years old. Yeah. Haven't seen a sequel, and it's still funny.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And what's going to be crazy is, like, Dash is going to be, like, 25. Violet's probably going to have kids. I mean, now you're skipping the entire milestone. You might as well just push it off until, like, 2022.
Well, and that kind of begs the question, is it going to pick up with where it left off, in the sense of, like, that big robot at the end came out, or is it going to be different villains? Is it going to be our, Mr. and Mrs. Incredible going to be even totally out of the, or I'm sorry, Elastigirl, even totally going to be out of the picture? So I think that there's a lot that we kind of want to see, and I think 2019 is a very long way to wait and keep those questions in mind.
Right. I mean, I actually have seen a little bit of the footage from the original teaser that they released many, many years ago, and they were talking about featuring Mole Man as the family's primary villain. I think that you see him at the very end.
Very end of the first one.
But I honestly, I think that you raise a very good question of whether or not they're going to just pick up all the very end, which I think would be doing a disservice to the people who originally followed The Incredibles, because you lose something by retrograding back to still a very young Dash. He's like 9 or 10. A 14-year-old Violet. It's very hard for us to relate to them anymore. And even like younger children who, you could make the case that younger children, they're just being introduced to this. But it's not an original, it's not an adaptation. This is a sequel.
Yeah.
So they're not going to have that connection with the characters that I think that we shared.
Now, one thing that you do have to keep in mind is that even though we are going, 2019 is so far away, every single one of us will go see that movie.
Well, of course. I mean,
that's the aggravating part, is that every single one of us will go, yeah, it's been 14, almost 20 years, I'll go see it.
Well, honestly, and I'll give Disney this, is their movies are pretty much timeless. Between them and Pixar, I don't think there's a single movie that they could release that I wouldn't go. I saw every single one of the Toy Stories when they came out. I actually saw Toy Story 2 3 times, because both times the reel caught on fire. So I actually was sitting there and I watched Andy's face catch on fire.
That's actually kind of more devastating than the end part of Toy Story 3. When they're walking towards the flame holding hands.
Since we are in the holiday season, I think that we can admit that was by far the darkest thing I think I've seen since The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That was very, I thought Andy was good.
And if there's anybody out there that hasn't seen Toy Story 3, I'm sorry. If you haven't seen it by now, you're probably not going to watch it. So,
spoilers, everybody dies.
After the fact, there are spoilers, so if you guys haven't seen any of these movies, I'm sorry.
It's like Westeros meets the daycare. It's bad. It's real bad.
Oh, man.
Yep, so I think, Pixar does a very good job of that. We're all going to go see it because we're dumb and we'll spend $10 to try to get a piece of trash. And actually, a little bit more off topic, I think that there's been a lot of articles coming out about what exactly millennials are known for. We're not really known for any great wars, we're not really known for, fixing the economy, but, research has started to identify that millennials are terribly nostalgic people. We're all very nostalgic. We all definitely grew up in a transition going from playing outside until the lights go on to I have a cell phone and that's the way that it is, and I stay inside and play video games. And I think that Pixar and the movies like that definitely give us that sense of cherished, warm, sad nostalgia that we're all after. I think that's a very millennial.
Well, yeah, let's face it, we're all adults, but now we're not functional adults yet. We are all still stumbling our way through adulthood going, I can barely figure this out.
I actually saw a very interesting, it was one of those Facebook style posts. Hashtag not like other girls, hashtag can't see my tears in the rain. But I thought that it was actually really insightful, because what it said was, now that we're adults, we're not really adults. We're slightly older adults looking for older adults that are masters of being adults to help us.
Well, you definitely need somebody that's adulting harder than you.
Right, because I'm definitely not adulting nearly hard enough.
Well, actually, I saw another post. Now we're kind of getting off topic a little bit, but it was like, I don't think I'm an adult, but I went and hung out with some 16-year-olds the other day, and I'm definitely an adult.
Oh, absolutely.
Totally an adult. Absolutely an adult.
I actually thought, a while back, I was like, I'm still young, I'm still hip, I can, the fact that I say the words, I'm still, right, as it were, I am good at the jitterbug. But when I'm not spending my free time at the discotheque or sitting in my room on my, my loafers, occasionally I get out to hang out with the youth. And I feel, this guy, because he's like,
so old. That'd be after you went to Blockbuster, right?
Yeah, it's actually right after I get done shopping at Blockbuster. I do not want those late fees.
You gotta turn that copy of Pootie Tang.
Oh my god. I have my streaming service is a little bit better by that already.
But, okay, so Pootie Tang aside, I do find that there's a big difference, I think, between millennials in our generation and a lot of the younger children. Now, besides the fact that we're also, kind of outdated, is the fact that I find it incredibly hard to relate to a lot of the issues that younger generations have now. I mean, and don't get me wrong, that's not to bash younger individuals. I feel like that the nature of the struggles that we faced were different. I think that ours were more development based. I feel like our struggles were really more based around like personal identity and growing into the person that you're going to be and trying to establish yourself for the future. Whereas I feel like nowadays children have a lot more emotional stressors and emotional traumas.
I would counter and say I feel like the younger generation now is trying to fast forward past this. Like it's no longer just growth.
Yeah.
Now you're like, oh, that 14-year-old looks like I do, and I'm 21.
And we definitely, I think, as time goes by, we do expect more out of younger people because 14. What were you doing at 14? You were playing video games. You're maybe still playing Pokemon. Like I still play Pokemon, but
it's true. I love Pokemon.
Yeah,
it's great. But we were definitely not expected to have jobs, not expected to help raise a family, not any of that. So I think that that's something they are definitely. We thought we had to grow up fast, but I think that this newer generation definitely has to grow up faster. That being said, I don't care how young you are. Our generation will still always kick your ass at college.
It's true. The
Always kick your ass at college.
90's kids really do master the art of video gaming.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've come back and been like, oh, I should probably go do. Actually, Fallout 4's coming out now, so my life
True.
is
Make
over.
no mistake. Your 90's adults definitely do not do adult things a lot of the time.
Oh no, I'll put it off for days. I could sit there and be like, well, I have to go do my taxes. Or I could just pick it up tomorrow morning.
I mean, they're not due until April.
Right, there is a reason why tax season starts in January and ends in April, so that 90's adults can.
We have like
procrastinate.
We have a couple of months just to go.
I'll wait till the day of.
Just fine.
You treat it like a college paper you have to do. You're like, oh, that's due in like 2 months.
That's fine.
I'll hit that. The day of. Oh no,
I
gotta
forgot to do my taxes.
I personally make it a family tradition to wait until the very last day to file my taxes.
It's only because you don't know how to find your W-2.
No, it's because I'm too lazy to drive to TurboTax.
See, I would be the same way.
TurboTax is a website. You don't actually drive to TurboTax.
Well, that's why my tax.
That's probably my taxes.
And this is where you find out that Marcus goes down for tax evasion. But for real, so I definitely agree with you. I think that younger generations are expected to grow up a lot. Personally, I feel like, maybe even 90's adults are partially to blame for the speed at which younger generations have to grow up now, in that, we kind of grew up looking down on, younger kids and kind of going, man, I can't believe, look how childish they are, we definitely, 90's kids, we were notorious for looking down our noses at other generations.
I think every generation does that, though. Like, I can't tell you how many times my mom has been like, oh, kids these days, or oh, you guys are so wrapped up in your cell phones and your Oregon Trail and, whatever the fuck she thinks we do. But it's definitely a generational thing. Like, it's not, like, remember when you guys were in high school and you were a senior and you're like, oh, I'm not going to pick on the freshmen, but they show up and you're like, fuck you, freshmen. So I think that no matter what happens, every generation will always rag on the next generation because every generation does have those things that make them better or worse. Like, our parents ruined the economy, we can't do anything right, and the new millennial or the newer generation
are dead set on doing
everything wrong, but being self-righteous while they do it.
It takes a certain kind of person to be like, hey, I know that I destroyed everything that I touched, but you should like me.
They are significantly more confident than 90's kids.
That's true.
Oh, absolutely. I still have problems trying to order anything over the phone.
Trying to order pizza and you're like,
I'll get through all of it, and they'll say, have a good day, and I'll be like, oh, thank you.
Oh, great weather we're having. Yeah, you too. And bye. And you're like,
is absolutely phenomenal.
I think I've actually told you guys this story before, but I got Chinese food. This is probably months ago. And the guy showed up, and he was really cute. And he had, kind of that surfer, like a puka shell necklace. And I was like, okay, righteous, we live in Colorado, but that's fine. And he was like, oh, you're really cute. Can I have your number? And I said, thanks, you too, and I slammed the door in his face. So I never ordered from there ever again.
I can account that she actually has never ordered there.
I've never ordered from there again. So that, which is a damn shame because they have really good crab rangoons. Yeah, I think that we are all very definitely awkward in the sense that I think that we just think faster than we talk, and you anticipate that somebody's going to say something and then they don't, and you have a response already on your tongue.
Well, we also speed through conversation as fast.
We
as
do.
possible.
You know, I think.
Clearly, as you can
all the time.
I mean, 90s kids, you know, we like to get on the younger generations for not really wanting to interact with other people, always being on their phones. But I think we're notorious for doing things simply because they are part of the tradition. So, I mean, like, for example, conversations is perfect. You know, I think the 90s kids feel obligated to have conversations with people, but we don't really want to. So instead of just saying, you know what, I'll just text you, or I don't really want to talk to you, we have a conversation really, really fast. Where instead of, you know, oh, hi, it's nice to meet you, bye, we ask you questions that we don't really care about. Oh, really, how's your family doing?
Well, everybody in the 90s generation wants to feel like a snowflake, so we'll help each other out to feel like a snowflake, even though I don't actually care what you're saying.
That's true. I don't think any 90s kid ever looked at another 90s kid and went, you're a special snowflake.
No.
You can't though, because I'm a special snowflake.
Right, you can't be a special
You can't.
snowflake.
I am a special snowflake.
I'm offended you're a special snowflake.
I don't care if you're. Okay, so anyway, what he was.
Anyway, like the non-special snowflake.
Like the non-special snowflake, the special snowflakes are having a meeting, so you need to see your way out.
But so definitely some pros and cons to millennials and generationals. Go ahead and tell us what you think below. I'm sure that's right up your alley, because as anyone can tell you, there is nothing that 90s kids love more than to tell you that they're from the 90s. Literally nothing that they love more. Even the most apolitical 90s child will still jump in to say, man, the 90s was the best. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen people link that ridiculous side-by-side showdown of the Cartoon Network 1994 through 2006 versus 2007 through 2015.
Which is, it's accurate though.
It is accurate. Don't get me wrong. Like even here.
For all like the people that not born in the 90s that are watching this, our cartoon lineup was significant.
Yeah, everything 2007.
That might have to be a different episode though.
That's
I think
true.
We are running out of time.
You know, you were absolutely right. So be sure to check us out later next week, because we've got a couple great things coming up, including our breakdown of Inside Out and a head-to-head showdown on what we think was the best cartoons from both our generation, the 90s, and from the newer generations, everything 2007
It's gonna be a short list from the new stuff.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably.
You had about one.
Actually, no, that's not true. I give a few. I could probably rattle off a few that you guys would agree with.
Well, we'll find out next time.
Until then, my name is DeMarcus Riedel.
I'm Ellie Abel.
And I'm Cedric Flynn.
And don't forget to check us out at the Digital Cool Kids table on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And remember, it doesn't have to be right, it just has to make sense.